Hello everybody, it's Brad here, or you might know me as Dax on Discord. Today we're going to do a video, or actually update an older video on using an sFTP client to upload and download files to your game server. So let's get started. We've got a lot of different options out there, and there's two options that we're going to look at today, one more than the other. To do this. The first option we're going to look at is one called CyberDuck. Now CyberDuck is available for both Mac and Windows. It seems most Mac users use CyberDuck, and then the one we're going to review today, the Windows users use FileZilla. Now let's just stick with FileZilla for today because I don't actually have a Mac, so I can't really show you that. But it should be fairly straightforward for Mac users. All the same principles would apply. It would just be learning that software as opposed to FileZilla. So when we go to FileZilla, you're presented for the download with two buttons, the client and the server. You want to make sure that you download the client and not the server. Okay? That's just the way it is. You are the client. So you click that, download the file, install it, and then you're good to go. I'm not going to go through all of that because it's fairly straightforward. So let's get right to FileZilla. So here's FileZilla. I'm going to log out. So we kind of start from scratch. And I really should have cleaned this up before I started. But let's just do it. Okay. What we're going to do here is we need to set up our credentials for logging into the sFTP server. So where do we find those credentials? If we go back to the website, Foundry Server, and we click on Knowledge Base, you'll notice there's a panel here that talks about sFTP client setup. Okay, this is where you're going to get all your information. The server address, the port number, the username, the password, protocol, and always trust. And we'll talk about that always trust here in a minute. Now, server address. I like to copy and paste because otherwise don't make any spelling mistakes. Let's go back to FileZilla. Sorry, FileZilla. And we're going to create a new site. And we're just going to call, I usually call it my username. And that'll set up a container for this information here. So what we want to do is first change our protocol to sFTP, and this is actually important. Next, I'll paste in the server, and next I'll put in the port number of 2222. Again, I found it here. Okay. Go back to FileZilla. The login type, we want it to be normal. The user is your username. This username is the username for logging into the website. And then you're going to put your password that you use for logging into the website. Now, what we want to do is hit OK so that we save the information. Then we come up here and we click on this button. It says True North, and it will log you in. Now, you'll know you're logged in because you won't see any red here. Everything comes up nicely, and then it says directory listing of / successful. And you'll see some data over here and over here. Now let's explain what these panels look like. So we've logged in. On the left, what we have is your home computer, and this is really important. On the right, we have the remote computer, and this is what you're paying Foundry Server for, right? Part of what we provide for you is a hard drive where you can store your game data. So again, the left is your home, right is the remote server or the Foundry server. Okay. So that's the basic interface. Now, let's just make that a little smaller so we got a little more room to play with. This is a directory listing these are the files and directories inside of whatever's highlighted. So if I highlight documents and settings, you'll see that there's no folders and no files. Let's see program files. You'll see I'm in program files, and in there are all of these folders. Right? Now I can open up the folder. You'll see here, see MS Build. Let's see here, MS Build. Wow, look at that. I click on that, and now it shows me what's inside of MS Build. I can open that, I can open that. So you can see how we can navigate directories and folders and look for files, okay? So that's how we navigate here. So this is meant to be a folder navigator, and this is what's inside of whatever folders is highlighted up here. And the same goes for here. So currently, we call this our home directory. We have these directories and some files, and don't ever worry about these ones. These are system files, and frankly you could delete them if you want to and it won't hurt anything. It's just the default files that get installed when we set up the account. Now yeah, so that's how we navigate between folders. We can double click here and it'll bring us in. We can open up here, click on this, brings us inside here, double click this, takes us up one directory, and you'll notice you went up a directory because this is highlighted. Okay, so that's how we navigate. So that was a lot of information. So let's log out and let's do it again. Disconnect. So we've disconnected from the server and we wish to log in. So we come up here, click the down arrow, click True North, and it logs us in, and now we're on this side. Now, if you're away from the computer for a few minutes, you actually may see a disconnect message up here. Not to worry. The minute you touch do an action on the right hand side, it'll automatically log you back in, and you won't have to do anything, okay? So that should be fairly straightforward. Now, how do we actually move files back and forth? Okay, so let's start off with, let's see here. Let's go to this PC, desktop. You'll notice that this here is a little different than maybe what you're used to. This is probably what you're more used to looking like, right? This is the Windows Explorer, and it's got home, desktop, documents, right? So Windows went ahead and made things really nice for you here and gave you some, what we call these favorite or links, okay? And you may find it confusing because if you look over here, they don't show up. And the reason being is FileZilla doesn't understand those favorite or those shortcuts. So this is dealing with the directory straight on the hard drive. And so you have to dig a little bit. Now you'll notice the one that they do show is documents. Why they decided to do that, don't know. But once we get into the directory of Brad, you'll notice then all of a sudden the folders start showing up like you expect. Okay, so we're going to just go into downloads just for fun. And I'm going to make a folder in here so that I don't mess up my downloads. And I'm just going to call it, I didn't want to do that. Stop, remove all. Sorry guys, didn't want to do that just quite yet. Okay, I'm going to create a folder here. Okay, I'm going to create a directory, and I'm going to call it video. Okay, so then we can just work in that and I don't make a mistake. Now, you'll notice that I was able to actually create a folder in here, and I didn't have to use the Windows Explorer to do it. I could have, okay, like I could have very easily. I'll just make this window a little smaller. So if I come into downloads, you'll notice here's the folder I made, right? Now let's just rename that folder. I'll hit F2 and we'll call it video 2 and hit enter. Now, if I come back to here, you're going to notice something. You're going to notice that the folder name didn't change. And that's because FileZilla has to be told to go look for changes. We call that a refresh. And right up here is the refresh button. So if we click that, it'll go through, have a look, and make sure everything is good to go. Now, why didn't it do that? Oh dear. It's the folders right there, so let's try this. Oh, okay, so it'll only refresh the folder highlighted. Okay, I just learned something new. So you gotta highlight the directory, hit the refresh button, and you'll see that video 2 showed up. Okay, so I was doing that to prove to you that you can use the regular File Explorer to make changes to your file system, but you would have to refresh FileZilla to see the changes. Okay? Now, let's get to uploading and downloading. So what I want to do is let's go into this folder here. Okay? Now let's try downloading something. Now, the first thing we're going to download, or try to download, or partially download, is this file right here. And you say, well, I've seen that in my home directory, but I didn't know what it was. Okay, so let's talk about what that is. So if we come back to the website and we log into our account and go to backup and restore, you'll see here I have the option to create a recovery point. Now very simply, all this does is it zips up your whole home directory and saves it as a zip file. So if we come back to here, you'll see that I've got a zip file, myusername.zip, and you can see it's almost 10 gigabytes in size. That full file contains all of this information, okay? So how do we download? And by the way, upload and download works exactly the same way. I can double click, and you'll see down here that it's starting the download, and you can see where it's putting it, in video 2. The reason it's putting it in video 2 is because that's the folder I have highlighted. Because I have it highlighted, this is open here. Now let's go back to video 2, and you'll notice that it's there, and it says 0 files, and that's because we're still in progress. That's to be expected. When this is complete, you'll see that change. Now, I don't remember. Let's try a refresh. No, it doesn't. I thought maybe it might refresh the file. Okay, so that's chugging away, and that's going to take forever. So how I did that, I made sure the folder I wanted it in was highlighted, and then I double-clicked this file. Okay, let's show you a different way to do that. Okay, now, the other way I can do it, again, select the folder I want it to go to, right-click, and you'll notice it says download, and I can hit download. Now, it says, hey, this file already exists, but you can see that the file sizes are very different, and that's because we stopped it. So it's saying, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to, if it's just overwrite it no matter what? Do you want it only if it's newer, only if the sizes are different, or if the size is different, or the source, right? It gives you a bunch of options here. So what we want to do is we're going to overwrite, and we're going to hit OK. And that's going to start the download, and off we go. Everything's downloading, chugging along beautifully. Not a problem. Okay. Now, I'm going to stop this. Now, so we double-clicked, we right-clicked. Now, guess what we can do? We can actually drag. We can grab this file and drag it over. And then we're presented with, and you just hit OK. Okay? So, that's how simple it is. Double-click, drag it over, or right-click, hit the download button. And it works exactly the same for upload. So let me show you that. Let's go into my documents. Let's find some document. How about original problem? Now, the root directory is highlighted. You can see what's in the root directory. So that's where I'm going to put it. Double click. And up it goes. It's a small file, so it went fairly quickly. I can right click, upload. And I'm going to overwrite it, and away it goes. I can also grab it and drag it. So again, upload and download works the exact same way. And you can do the exact same thing with a folder. Grab the folder and drag it over. And now it's going to create the folder and upload all the contents in that folder. Okay. Now you notice that I dragged it into this pane. I could have dragged it into this pane here and put it on one of these folders that is shown here, okay? I just chose that the home directory was highlighted. It's showing down here. I wanted the file to be in my home directory, okay? And that's what it's doing. Now, I don't really want that up there, so I'm just going to stop that transfer. And you'll notice it's still here, okay? Now, I don't want that there. Well, there's a couple of things we can do. I can actually hit the delete key on my keyboard. I'll do it with this one. So I'm going to hit the delete key. It says, do you want to delete it? I'm going to say yes. Or I can highlight it, right click, and delete. Okay. Now, it's still doing stuff. You'll see it moving up here. It's going through and deleting all of the stuff that needs to be deleted. This is a little slower than what you're used to, and that's because we're doing it on a remote server, and the remote server has to use FileZilla to talk back and forth. So things can be a little slow for deletions, but hey, it gets the job done. And you can see that it's deleted. And it also auto-refreshed. Now with FileZilla, that won't always happen. So sometimes you have to hit the refresh button on a particular folder in order for it to go. Okay. Now the last thing I wanted to show you was how to move game data that's on your home computer to the server at Foundry Server. Now, so here's the example. So I've installed it at home. I'm running it on my Windows computer. I've been building my world, and now I'm ready to have my players play. I went out, found a hosting provider, and now it's time to move my data from home up to the hosting provider. Okay, so first you have to find the data on your computer. Now this is a typical place for data if you're a Windows user. Not quite sure where it is on Mac, but I'm pretty sure you can use the Finder feature and you'll be able to find it. But on Windows, we go under the your current user, and then we're going to come under Application Data, and we're going to come down to here where we find Foundry. When I highlight Foundry, this pane down here shows me the directories, and you'll notice they're very similar. Look at config, config, data, data, logs, logs, right? And you'll notice they are different because these files don't exist over here. And that's a good thing. So now I want to move the world I've been working on up to the server. Where's my world? On the home computer in the data directory, you can see that there's some files here. And you can see that we have world systems and modules. Okay, so I'm going to go into worlds, and you're going to see my test world. Okay, I want to take this world and put it up to the server. I'm going to come up here, I'm going to come down, come into worlds, and you'll see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 worlds set up here, and only one over here. I want to move this world, or make a copy, I should say, a copy of this world on the server. Highlight this, highlight, so I want to be in worlds, right? I want to be there so that it shows this. I'm over here. I'm going to right click, drag or double click, and hit upload. And you can see it's created the world, the folder My Test World, and it's uploaded all the files. So let's open it up, and you'll see we have data. There's the files. Okay, and just to prove to you that they're the same, let's go into data. And look, scenes DB 3432. Scenes DB 3432. Okay, so now I've uploaded them. Now what you're going to try and do is launch your world. And you're going to go, how come it's not there? So let's have a look at that. Okay, let's go here. I'm going to launch my world. Here's my world. I'm going to return to setup. Oh, right, I forgot about this. Okay, now you can see that it's not here. It's not in the list. And the reason it's not in the list is that Foundry doesn't read the list until it's been restarted. Okay, so then what we do is come over to here, we stop the world, give it a few seconds, nothing happens instantly, and then we're going to hit the start button, give it a couple of seconds, come back to our world and hit reload. This is to be expected. There we go. Type in your password, which I sure hope you have, and come into here, and now it's not there. Oh, that is too funny. Okay, so why isn't it there? Let's have a look. Jeez. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Oh, what the heck happened? What happened there? Let's go back. Let's hit reload. Oh, that is too funny. Okay, there's a reason why it's not listed there, and I don't know what it is. Shit. Okay, you know what? I'm not sure why. Maybe somebody will know why. It's supposed to be there. Oh, I know what it might be. I installed version 10 on my home computer, and I have version 9 running on my server. I bet you that's what it is, and I bet you there's an incompatibility that won't allow this to happen. I bet you that's what it is. And I was actually going to mention that early on in the video. When you're moving worlds between home and the server, the Foundry version has to be the same. It's imperative, because then stuff like this happens. And it's not even just version 9 versus version 10, but it's also the version, the decimal versions as well, like 9.280. Make sure that it's 9.280 at home. Okay, so that's what's going on there. That's too funny. Okay, so that's how we move data around. Okay, the last thing I'll leave you folks with is that FileZilla has this great ability, and that is, if we look at here, you'll notice that on my home computer, I have just my test world, and over here we have a bunch of worlds. Okay. If I highlight this, if I double click this, all of this information here will download into this folder. Okay. If I highlight this and download and do this, it's actually going to take this world and put it inside of this worlds. And it really makes a mess of things. So try not to do world into world. Here's what you want to do. Highlight worlds over here, and then come over here and grab everything that you want. Now, If you want to do one folder at a time, you can do that, okay? If you want to do multiple folders, you have to highlight here and do your selection down here. And what I mean is I can click here, hold the Shift key, click here, and drag it over. Okay, now, here's the last thing I want to show you, and this makes it really easy for keeping the versions of your data the same. Take, for an example, that you want to keep a version of your server game at home, and you want to work on it at home, and then send the changes up to the server for the next game. Okay? Now you have to make sure everything's in sync. So this is more of an advanced way of doing things, but just bear with me. I just finished my game. Half my players died, they killed the dragon, whatever. Foundry has made changes to the world folders and files, but I actually want to bring that to home so that I can prep for the next session. Now you have two choices here. You can prep at home and upload, or you can just prep on the server. Most people just prep on the server. However, some people, mostly professional DMs, like to prep at home. And that way they've actually got a copy of it at home in the event of any problems on the server. Okay? And they find it easier to move files around, easier to do house cleaning when it's all local on your computer, because it's actually faster. So, just finished the game. Now I'm going to download everything. Now, what it's telling us here is it says, hey, the file already exists. And what I want to do is I actually only want to bring stuff from the server down to my home computer only if it's newer. Why would I download the stuff that's still the same? So I'm going to click this. It says overwrite if the source is newer. And what I'm saying is any files that have a date newer than what's at home, download them. Otherwise, don't download it because it's not new. Okay. Then the second question is, do you want to do this all the time, or do you want it just to do it for this queue? And what I mean by queue is we're downloading an awful lot of files, and they're all queued up down here. Okay, and you can see there's 400 files queued up for download. So when I say apply to queue, that means to these 400 files. Okay? And when I hit OK, it's doing this, and you didn't even see it do this. It skipped over a ton of files because my test world already existed at home. Okay? So this kind of gives you some information down here. It tells you how fast the files are going, and small files will blast through really quickly. The bigger files will take a few minutes, and you'll actually get more statistics like there. You can see successful transfers, right? So we can open this up, and it'll show you all the successful files. This here shows you all the files that are queued up and ready to go. Okay. Now, I'm not going to wait for this to finish, but you would. I'm just going to stop it. Stop, stop, and stop. Okay, now, so we've downloaded a bunch of stuff, and you can see here that if I hit refresh, you'll see here. And I did a refresh by hitting F5, or I could have hit this button. So anyways, you can see that it's got more to download, but you can see it got the folders. So now, just imagine you've downloaded everything and you want to do prep at home. Now I'm just going to pretend prep here. I'm going to come into my test world, grab data, or let's say I'm going to make a folder. I'm going to call it assets. And then I am going to, let's see, I'm just gonna, let's see here. I was gonna just try and create a file. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up this here, my file explorer for my Windows box, right? So I'm gonna come into here, I'm gonna, let's see, where is it? Sometimes Windows is a pain in the butt. It's not showing me the folders that I want, the app data folder. And it's always a pain in the ass when it does that. I wish it wouldn't do that. Let's see if it's here. Yep, there it is. Local, boundary, data, okay, worlds, my test world, assets. Okay, so there it is. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to put a file in here. And I'm just going to go new, and we'll just make it a, let's see, let's just make it a text file, and we'll call it good. All I wanted to do is just make something different. Okay, so now I can come back in here, and you'll notice there's nothing in assets. Assets is highlighted, and refresh, and there's the file. So now what I'm showing you is that at home things have changed, meaning you did more prep. Now I actually want to move what I did at home up to the server. Now I only made changes to the one world, so I'm not going to try and upload everything. I'm just going to upload the world. So I highlight the world. Okay. And I am going to take my test world and I'm going to drag it here. And now it's going to say, hey, things have changed. Now we found some identical files, same date. Actually, the date, did it change? Yeah, it did change, and it would change. And the reason it did that is because there was a minute or so between when it uploaded the file. So you got to just understand nothing's perfect here, right? But you'll notice that the size is the same. So why don't we do this? Why don't we click this one? Only overwrite if it's a different size or the source is newer. That'll cover off both. And I'm going to do it to this queue. And I hit OK. And you'll see it's skipping past everything. Okay. And then we say, okay, we're done. Now let's come into my world. You'll see, oh, look, assets, new text document. So what happened is it skipped over everything except this folder, this file. So now your home is identical to the server. Okay. Hopefully that wasn't confusing. That last bit was for the advanced user. And what I was trying to do there was make it so that instead of downloading 10 gigabytes of data every time, you would only download or upload files that have changed. That's all I was showing you there, and that's what that dialog box gives you the option to do. So there you go. The last thing I'll let you leave you with is here. What do these folders actually do? Okay, so the config folder here, this is where we keep the license information, your configuration for your game, and also your administrative password. If you forget your administrative password, delete that file. There's an option on the website to delete it as well, but if you're in FileZilla, you can delete it. And then you just go in and recreate a new password from the configuration screen in FileZilla. Logs, bet you never looked in here before. These files are created by the Foundry server, and they actually show you module errors, all kinds of things. So if your game is crashing or you're having problems and things are not working, this is a good place to go and find things out. Okay. This is would contain a lot of the same information as if you hit F12 in your browser and you saw the console logs showing up there. And you'll see that in a lot of help and how-tos is hit F12. So F12 is showing you what's the contents of these files. Okay. They do get kind of big, so feel free to delete them once in a while. You can do it using FileZilla. And there you go. That's an awful lot of information, but I think it's worthwhile. If you have any questions, come to Discord. We're here to help. But just understand that really what we're dealing with here is just a file manager. We manage the local files and we manage the remote files. And we can move files between them. And that's it. So I hope that's helped. Stop by Discord, say hi anytime. And till next time.